We're live. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Look who's up here. Did
Of
everyone have a
course,
good day? Yeah, it's been a good day. How about for you? Oh, happy Easter, JB.
baby. Oh, this is great. I don't see nothing.
You don't see nothing?
Got your
Oh,
commercial
yeah.
going?
You can't, I forgot you can't see chat, can you?
Mm-mm. I'm pulling it up. I'm waiting. I got you up on the TV now.
Oh, wow. It's good as fun. Okay, y'all. So today I'm going to play T-Rez's video of the interview he had with Chris Proudfoot's ex. Oh, here comes Peggy.
I'm late, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late.
Let's see.
Peggy.
Carlotta.
I gotta go to YouTube. I'm still here. I just can't see the screen at the moment. YouTube.com. Um, go. Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna dip. I'm gonna dip so I can watch in here, and I'm gonna go sit with him and be nosy.
Okay, Carl. I love you. Thank you for coming up.
I love you. I'll see you guys in the chat.
I love you. Let's see.
Bye. I wish
Let's
you'd
see.
stay, but
Nina. Let's see here.
what we got? We got JB and Amy and Carlotta. She said boo. She's so silly. She's so silly.
Okay, now I gotta find our live. Okay, here's our live. Let me give it a second while it spins to find its service. Ain't that crazy? This internet is horrible.
I'm sorry I'm late, but I was eating my dessert.
Oh, it's okay. I was thinking about bringing me a corn on the cob over here and eat it.
Mm.
Hey, Amy.
No, Amy got everybody's name in there. Whoa.
She did good.
Dang. By the way, hi him. Since I know you're sitting with Carlotta now. Hello him.
Yes, hey, him. Let me see if it's still spinning or if it's. Don't you do this spinning thing to me.
Did you
Let me
know,
see.
Carlotta, did you let Mr. Beat Roger know that I thought that was funny? I'm still laughing over that. I think that's funny.
Okay.
Well, Russ Beat.
Hey, Les Nerve. Or did she just say nerve? Oh. Let's see. Now, is there a way I can maybe shrink this a little bit on?
Okay, good. I was hoping he got the. Oh hell! I had red beans and rice for dinner tonight. I didn't do no ham, and it's just me and my son. And my mother-in-law took him to a cafeteria place, and they came home with takeout food.
Let's see here. Oh, that went a little. Okay, we'll just make sure we y'all. This is Christopher Proudfoot's ex, Nina Gomez. If I could drop his channel link of who done the interview, I would, but I don't want to get in trouble for dropping links. But his name is T-Rez on YouTube. And he does a really, really good job.
Hey, Miriam.
Let's see. Okay.
Happy Easter to you.
Yes, happy Easter. Oh, heck, I had salad and chicken patty. I went all out. It's shred promises. I wish I knew how to kind of make it a little different. You know what I mean? On trip time, birthday cases, coat cases, and much more.
Oh, that was was good. Now I want more.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Trap Time. Thank you for being here. If you're watching this, this is on a premiere.
I didn't get no
So
dessert.
feel free to chat below when you are seeing this. We do have a special
Oh,
guest
I'm
who I'm going to
sorry,
bring up,
Marianne.
who is going to tell her story. This is Nina. Nina, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank
Oh,
you for
that
having
sounds
me,
good,
Trevor.
Amy.
Absolutely. You want to tell everybody who you are and just kind of get started?
Absolutely. So my name is Nina Gomez, as a lot of you know.
That is
I am
sweet.
Faith
Hi,
Proudfoot's mother.
Daddy.
Christopher Proudfoot is Faith's father, biologically. And I'm here to tell my story of what happened to myself and to my children.
Absolutely. And I think it's a story that needs to be heard. So if you want to just open us up with the beginning of your story and just get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, my name is Nina.
You got really pretty hair.
I live here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I have 3 amazing children. I met Christopher back when I was 35 years old. I met him on a dating website. Don't know what I was doing there, I guess. I wish I could take it back.
She is brave.
I started talking to him. He was stationed out in San Diego, and we started talking back and forth. Started wanted to get to know him a little bit more. I thought he was a great person in the beginning. But everybody is always perfect in the beginning, right?
Yep.
We fail to see the red flags, and we fail to notice things that we should in the beginning. So he made a couple of trips out here, asked me to marry him, and I made the mistake by saying I do. So we got married. Eventually, we moved to San Diego.
I didn't know they got married.
I wasn't really ever prepared to move away again from New Mexico. I had went through a divorce a couple years prior to meeting Christopher. And my first husband was military as well, but I was married to him for 9.5 to 10 years, almost 10 years. We made it. He's the father of my other 2 children. And I told him that, I was remarrying and we were moving to San Diego. And he wasn't really for it. He was kind of against it due to the fact that he was stationed out at Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso, Texas. And that's about like 3.5 hours from Albuquerque. So he was, he would always see his kids like every weekend. And he's like, how am I?
Marion, this is Sebastian Rogers' stepdad. This is his stepdad's ex-wife. And she's speaking out, telling her side of the story. It is emotionally tough. It is. I will just warn y'all on that. It is, but it's something that I feel like it's good. It's just something I feel that would be good that we listen to. And she's brave to get out here and speak her side of the story. Hey, Arrow. She's brave.
How am I going to see my kids? And I said, well, we'll figure it out. So we packed up after we said I do. I don't remember the exact date when I got married to Christopher. And maybe that's a good thing. We moved into the naval housing out there.
Thank you, Danny.
And my son, Noah, was 3 at the time. And my oldest was about 7 years old. and she was telling me 7. So
That's his channel name, y'all.
I thought everything was great in the beginning. I mean, everything's always perfect, like I said. And then I started seeing bits and pieces of how Christopher really was. I was a stay-at-home wife due to my son being so young. I wanted to, enjoy those years with him. Then my daughter went to school right down the street, so I was home every single day. And it just started seeing like Christopher change like night and day. It was awkward. I felt really uncomfortable. After a while, we would argue about just the smallest things. And
Oh, yeah,
a lot of it also had to do with how he disciplined my children.
How do I wish I could, let's see. I wish I could share the link. Yeah, Trev Time. It's Trev Time. I watched both of those that you mentioned. But is it at T-Rev? Trev Time.
I'm very protective over my kids. And I didn't want somebody else to discipline my children. I didn't want him talking ugly to them, hurting their feelings.
Let's see.
And I remember one point in time where Christopher spanked my son really hard, and I got very upset with him, and I said, you can't do that to my son. I said, he's 3, he's a baby still. Like, you can't just do whatever you want. I mean, and he got upset, and he's like, well, he needs to learn. He needs to man up. He's a man. I said, he's 3.
Yeah,
he's 3.
Oh.
And as time went on, like, I could see him getting more aggressive and more aggressive. And I stood up for my kids all the time. I didn't like how he talked to them, how he wanted them to stand in the corner all the time. And I didn't like that. So I stayed a little bit longer.
2023.
I ended up eventually getting pregnant with Faith. And it was probably, I want to say, maybe early September that I found out that I was pregnant with Faith.
Oh.
And I remember telling him that I was pregnant, and he wasn't happy about it. So I called my parents back home here in Albuquerque, and I told them the situation. And I said, well, Christopher wants me to get an abortion with Faith.
Wow.
And my parents said, no.
I'm gonna go give you the money back.
You're not.
I'm saying.
And I said, I'm not. So I know he was very upset about me keeping Faith at that point in time. So I came home. My grandma had gotten very sick, and I decided to come home. And after that, I just kind of stayed here in New Mexico, because at that time we weren't getting along, and we were just like newlyweds, and that should have never happened. But I saw things, like I said, that were just it wasn't right about him. So I moved home, and I did my whole pregnancy by myself.
That's sad.
And so I finally, my friends back there in California, my neighbors right across the street were actually calling me. I had one good friend, which is still a really good friend of mine to this day. She called me and said, Nina, Christopher's getting rid of your furniture.
What?
And getting rid of your stuff. And I was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, he's giving away like your little, your home decor stuff. Like he's giving away beds. And I was like, no way. So, and this was about Easter time. So I had went out there. I made a special trip. I asked my mom to go with me. And Isabella and Noah, they went with me. And I was still pregnant with Faith at the time. So we made it. I didn't tell him that we were going out there. So I kind of, wanted to see myself, because the neighbor also informed me that there was people at the house that shouldn't have been there. So I guess I kind of wanted to sneak up on him and see what he was doing, right? And we pulled up into the driveway, into the driveway, and he was coming out the front door with a bed that he was giving to the neighbor, which was my son's bed.
Wow.
And as soon the look on his face was like a deer in headlights. And he dropped the bed right there in the front yard, went back in the front door, slammed the door and locked it on my kids. And my mom told me at that point, she said, I can't believe he's doing this. Like, what is he doing?
Thank you.
So I go in and I unlock the door and I said, what are you doing? I said, are you giving away my stuff?
Wow.
And he had nothing to say. So he brought the bed back in, because I knew that's what he was doing. And, the neighbor across the street, like I said, told me. So we stayed there. It was super uncomfortable. My mom felt the tension between the both of us. My children felt it as well. And at the time, Faith started moving. Like I could start, I felt her moving around in my stomach. And I told Christopher, I said, look, I said, put your hand on my stomach. I said, can you feel her move? He said, no.
Wow.
When you're pregnant, you always think that your spouse is going to be super supportive and be super excited that you're pregnant and bringing a life into this world for him, right? But I didn't get that. I didn't get that support that I needed.
That's sad.
So we had a conversation my mom brought up between Christopher, myself, and her. And she had said, do you not want Faith? Like, do you not want this baby? And Christopher stated to my mom, he wasn't happy. And he said, what if one of them dies? What if Faith dies or Nina dies on the table, or when she's having this baby? Like my mom said, don't talk like that. Like, why are you talking like that?
Wow.
They're still here. So we left again after a couple days. We came home to Albuquerque, and still I tried working it out where we were at, but it just wasn't working. I wanted out.
Understandable.
And I had Faith on my own.
So she had her in the hospital.
Christopher called the hospital. I told him on June 1st that I got admitted into the hospital.
Oh.
And Faith arrived at June 2nd, like about 3 or 4 in the morning.
Oh.
And he kept calling the hospital and kept calling the hospital and saying that my wife is in labor, she's there. But Christopher was just so, he was just so rude and hateful and just, I mean, he wasn't even there.
Wow.
So then he arrived a couple days later after I had Faith. And he was, the doctors and the nurses there were on high alert due to the fact that they heard Christopher over the phone on how he was being disrespectful to the nurses that were on call that night, as you know, I was waiting to have her. And I asked that they not give him any more information.
Wow.
So he arrived. I had Faith. He arrived a couple days later, like I said. And
Yes,
you could
Amy.
just tell the look on his face, like he wasn't happy at all.
I heard that too.
Like, didn't say, hey, you did a good job. Didn't say, I'm so happy that you brought my daughter into this world. Like, nothing. And I remember my sister was holding Faith, and she had to ask Chris, do you want to hold her?
Wow. So she has a lot of trauma that she needs to work on healing from too.
So she handed her over to Chris. And he stayed there with me for a couple more days because I had a C-section. And on one of the occasions, I can't recall what was happening, but he was raising his voice and he was talking to me very disrespectful in front of one of the nurses. And she had told him, look, she just brought life into this world. She just got major surgery and you're yelling at her, and I have a problem with that.
Wow.
She said, if you continue to do this, I'm going to have to tell social services to come down here, and I'm also going to have to ask you to leave the hospital and not return.
At least someone stood up to
So
me.
at that point in time, he kind of calmed down after he heard that. But unfortunately, that didn't last very long. He continued to do that. So social services at the hospital was told to come down, and he was pretty much, she said, you can't do that here.
Whoa.
And she was really concerned for my well-being at the time, and also Faith's, because, here is Christopher, dictating and telling me what I can and can't do, and telling the nurses to do their job correctly and all these other things, and raising his voice at me. And, so they had to step in.
I agree, Amy.
And so she said, this is it. Like, you're going to have to leave the premises. And, and he got a little upset, and he's like, no, I'm going to change. I'm going to be good. So, they said, okay, but we're watching you. We're watching you. So after that, we had left.
No.
They discharged all of us from the hospital, and he didn't want to stay at my parents' house because my mom and dad live in a trailer, and he doesn't like that.
Hey, cool.
It's a house, right? Still. So he rented a room at Kirtland Air Force Base, and they have like lodging there, which is like a house, old base house.
What a up-to-date. Can't sleep in a trailer. Oops. Sorry. I don't understand. There ain't nothing wrong with a damn trailer. There ain't not one. Hell, I lived in a trailer before I moved in here, and I'd rather live in a trailer, to be honest with you.
Housing, and we ended up getting one of those. And we stayed there for a while. I remember one night in particular where we all had went out and got something to eat to bring it back to the room. I had went into the restroom, I believe that's where I was at, and Faith was in her car seat, and my oldest daughter was in the living room with my son and Christopher. Well, anyways, I guess I wasn't moving fast enough for Christopher, but the baby started crying. Faith started crying.
Wow.
And, you know, she's crying, and I'm trying to get to her as fast as I can. And when she was in the car seat, my oldest daughter at the time witnessed this with my 3-year-old son. When she was in the car seat, he ended up hitting the car seat against the wall. And he's getting upset because she's crying. And then when she was in her car seat, there was a coffee table right there, and he ended up tossing her on the coffee table with the car seat.
What?
Because he was so irate that she was crying. And I said, hey, I said, what's your problem? I said, what are you doing? Like, she's a baby. She's going to cry. I wish I would have just... I wish I would have never met him.
I'm sorry, Nina.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry.
I should have left a long time ago. Because no children ever deserve this. My kids didn't.
Look at Charles.
So he left again to San Diego. A couple of days went by. Then all of a sudden he's like, well, you know, why don't you move to Hendersonville? And I was like, why though? You know, in my head, and I knew it was a bad idea. I just knew it. I knew it because our marriage was on the rocks. I wasn't happy. He wasn't a good father figure to my children. I don't know why I said yes. Well, anyways, so let me back up. So before he left back to San Diego, Faith ended up going back into the NICU. She ended up getting jaundice, and she went back to the NICU. So she was in the NICU. I want to say for a week and a half, and that was when Kathy, Chris's mother, came out, flew down with her brother, Duran Guy, or they call him Big D. They came down, and she was in the NICU.
Oh.
And that was when I felt like a plan was made, because like I said, our marriages it was on the rocks. And one of my neighbors had told me in San Diego, they had warned me. They had said, be careful, because Christopher is coming up with a plan with his mother. And they're planning on taking the baby away from you. And I was like, what?
Like, crap.
Thinking to myself, it can't be true from somebody that's supposed to love you, right? Like somebody that you're supposed to share your life with. Like, why would he want to take the baby away from me? And she warned me. But I was like, no, why would they do that?
Wow, Errol, I'm sorry.
So then after Faith got out of the NICU, we were no longer staying and base housing. We were staying at one of the NBC suites down here. Then his mom came up with an idea. She goes, well, since you guys, will be moving to Hendersonville. And I was like, I felt like, okay, well, maybe. And he's like, well, you'll get help. You're going to get help from my family. But I was already getting help here from my parents, with my other 2 children that they helped me raise.
Yeah.
So that I went along with it. Like I said earlier, even though I knew it was wrong to go, I still went hoping that my marriage would work out. So she ended up taking Faith, although I was against it. Kathy Bowers Hawks and her brother Duran ended up taking Faith. And my mom and dad were like, my mom started crying and she goes, why are you letting them take the baby?
Especially with your friend.
And I said, because Christopher said that it's going to be too hard for her to travel, to travel. And I'm sorry. They went back. So Kathy and Big D went back to Tennessee. So 2 weeks later, about 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks later, Kathy ended up coming back by herself. I do apologize. She came back by herself to pick up Faith. She was here in Albuquerque for one night, and I was, even though I was against it, I let her go with Kathy because Christopher said it was going to be too hard to travel with her being a new baby. So he came out from San Diego, rented a U-Haul, packed all our stuff, and we pretty much left.
Wow.
And
they didn't
that's how I ended up in Hendersonville, Tennessee. That's when my whole life changed. That's when
another trigger warning.
My nightmare happened. We lived with his mother and his stepfather, Terry, for about a good month because our apartment wasn't going to be ready until the end of August, about the end of August. So it was really uncomfortable living there.
Okay, Arrow.
Terry and Kathy would always bicker at each other, and she'd be bickering with Christopher, and, my kids were a problem.
Oh.
An issue. It was always something. I felt really uncomfortable and I wanted to come home. I just wanted to come home to everything that I knew. I wanted my mom and my dad, even though I was a grown woman, I needed that. So, we all had to get along, tried to for the most part, but it was just an awkward situation. I always felt like we were the outcast. Never felt accepted by the Proudfoots or the Bowerstocks. On one occasion, Christopher was cutting my oldest daughter's nails, and she didn't want her nails cut. And Christopher, grabbed a hold of her hand, and she pulled her hand away. And my daughter at the time had braces. He backhand Isabel in the face and busted her whole lip open.
Somebody backhand him in the face. That's sad. That's messed up.
I should have left. But I didn't. And I was like, oh my God, like I can't be here. I don't want to be here anymore. So I would come up with every excuse just to come home, but yet, I couldn't come home. So finally we went and we moved into the apartment. And a phone call, like as soon as Christopher was leaving, he settled us in, got a storage unit of what couldn't fit in the apartment. He got everything ready, all right? Him and his family.
Exactly, Danny.
As soon as he knew that we were comfortable, he left back to San Diego. But the night prior to him leaving, he had got a phone call or text message that night, and it said something like, "Hey baby," or around something like that, saying that when is your flight coming in? And I was like, what? Like, who's texting him? So I did confront him.
I know, Danny. I wish we could give her a big hug.
And like he said on one of the podcasts is that I did slap him. Yes, I did slap him across the face, because who's he talking to at this time and saying, and I mean, he could say that she was lesbian, I mean, up and down, but I mean, at this point in time, I didn't know what to believe, and I was like, okay. So then after that following day, he finally left. His mother came to pick him up to take him to the airport, and he went back to San Diego. And I was left in Hendersonville with 3 children and pretty much no help from anybody. So I have found a job. I had a job, and Kathy helped once in a while. And I needed to find a babysitter. So his biological father, Michael, and his stepmother, Linda, at that point in time offered their services and said that, they can take care of my 2 older children. And Kathy didn't want Faith going over to Michael's house. So she took care of her.
Why didn't she want?
And at that point in time, Christopher, we were still communicating. And like I said, our marriage was on the rocks. So my oldest daughter had gotten sick, and she has upper respiratory issues. So I took her to the emergency room in Hendersonville, and that's when Hendersonville transferred her to Vanderbilt. Is that what
wow.
I believe that hospital's name is? And I was kind of frantic, because I was like, well, what am I going to do with my 3-year-old son and with the baby? Like, who's going to help me? So I was, I called Chris, and I told him, I said, hey, can your mom watch, Faith, or can somebody help me? Everybody was so quick to help me at that point in time.
Wow.
So Faith stayed with Kathy, and Noah Bryce went with his sister, Melissa. And I went with my oldest daughter. We got transported downtown. And so we stayed there. I can't recall how many days we were there. And Christopher had, I'd check on the kids, see how they were doing. And that point in time, I was like, okay, well, we got discharged, telling everybody, okay, you can bring Noah back, and telling Kathy, okay, I'm going to be home, so you can bring Faith back.
Yeah.
Thinking that my children were going to come home to me. I get back to the apartment complex, And I pulled into the parking lot and I see Melissa just pulled in right next to me. It seems like they were already there waiting for me to get there. And then
Oh, wow.
she said, I can't stay. I would love to stay, but I can't stay because I don't know what they were doing. And she just, my son gets out of her van. And then we walk inside and I was waiting, for Faith to get there.
Yes, Amy.
And we weren't there but less than maybe 5 minutes.
Hey, Ken.
And I hear a knock at the door. And I was like, oh, great, Faith is home.
Yeah.
And it was Kathy's friend, Patty, that's an attorney. And she said, are you called me by my real name, Gomez? And I was like, yeah. And she said, you've been served. She said, you have a protection order against you.
That's so sad.
You can't see Faith. And Chris is filing for divorce. And I was
Deep
like,
breath.
what? So then I go back, and thinking like my heart just drops. Like, what? Like, is this a dream? Like, this can't be happening to me. Like, this cannot be happening to me right now. So then I get on the phone and I try calling Chris and he didn't answer her. And then I was like, rushing around and
It's a control thing.
I get my kids in the truck and I go to the Gallatin police department and I, was ringing the call button. And like finally 30 minutes later, somebody shows up and I told them what happened and I showed them the paper and they said, yep,
Bless her
we
heart.
can't help you.
Bless her heart. Oh.
All I can think about is my baby. Like, how am I going to get my baby back? Like, why is this happening to me?
Oh. Take a deep breath, honey.
So I go to Kathy's house and I knock on the door. And I remember I had Christopher's stepmom, Linda, on the phone with me. She was on speakerphone and I told her what was going on. Little did I know everybody was in on this. And Terry answered the door, which is Chris's stepfather. And he told me that I need to get off of his fucking property. And here little Noah who's 3 years old and my Isabella is 7.
Oh.
And they're standing behind me. And I said, please tell me what's going on. I said, where's Faith? I said, please give me my baby back.
Oh.
And he told me, get off my fucking property. And he took out a green and black baseball bat.
Still remembers the color. Nice to see you.
And he told me to fucking leave or he's gonna bash me and make his head.
What?
So me and my kids walked back to my truck. And we got back in it. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? This is a nightmare. What am I gonna do? And Chris was inside of the house with the baby. I saw his shadow. And they lied for him and they said that he was in California and he really wasn't.
Wow.
So we go back to the apartment, and I'm trying to gather all my thoughts together. I'm trying to keep as calm as I can for my other two children, but all I could do was just cry and just think, like, what is my
Yes,
next
Amy.
move? What am I going to do now? I'm so far away from home. I'm far away from my parents. I'm far away from everything that I've ever known. So then I make a call to my brother.
So took her away from everything she knows and brought her to Tennessee to do what they can do to ruin her life. It's exactly what happened, in my opinion.
My brother, who he lives in Phoenix. And I told him what was going on, and he was so upset. And he's like, oh my God. And he's like, have you called Mom and Dad yet? And I said, no. And he told me himself that day, he said, you're going to fight. You're going to fight like hell to get Faith back. You don't leave that baby in that state. You fight like hell to get her back, whatever it takes.
Mm.
And that's what I did.
Stand
I
back.
called my mom and dad. And it had to have been after midnight here, so about like 1 something our time there. My dad answered the phone. And I couldn't talk. All I could do is cry. I couldn't get the words out. And finally he said, calm down. Please calm down and tell me what happened. And I told him. I said, Daddy, they took my baby.
Bless her heart. Oh my God.
And all he could get out is, oh no, they hurt my baby. And he started crying. And he woke my mom up. And he said, you hang in there, we're on our way. So every single day, I worked at a local Great Flips out there.
Hey,
And I went in from the time it opened to the time it closed. That following morning, after all this had happened, I went to my bank account and to my savings. I've been saving money through this whole entire time, but I've been using it since we were out there so I can help support my kids and myself. But little did I know that Christopher wanted me to use all my money because he didn't want me to have anything, so I wouldn't retain a lawyer. So that morning before I went to work and dropped my kids off, at the time, Michael and Linda, which is
thank you, Pam.
Christopher's biological father, and his stepmother were still helping me watch my kids because I still had to work.
Oh.
And I went into my bank account, and I remember I only had $1,100 in there. And I was looking through the phone book, or looking through, my phone, and seeing, well, I need to get a lawyer. Who can I get? Thank God for Mr. Edwards, because I went into his office before, I called into work that day pretty much, and I said, I need to just think. I said, I need a day off.
Oh.
So I went into his office, and I ended up doing a consultation with him. And I remember him, he told me what his fees were, and he told me, I told him the situation. And he was in shock, and he goes, my God, he goes, this all happened? Like, you should have never came out here. And I said, I know, I should have never came out here. So at the time, I explained the situation to Mr. Edwards, and I was crying. And I said, Mr. Edwards, I said, I just want my baby back. And then I remember I still had my wedding ring on at that point in time. And I slipped off my wedding ring and I sat it on his desk. And he looks at me and I said, please, sir,
Trigger
I'm
warning.
not doing anything, just for my baby back.
Oh, man.
He said, you're all I have. Please help me. I remember he took out his little magnifying glass and he looked at it and he put his head down. And he goes, God. He goes, I work for money. I said, and I know, sir. I said, and I promise I will pay you every dime that I can.
So far, I'm figuring out that I'll say allegedly, or in my opinion, got her away from her family and everyone. Okay.
You see my banana hammock?
Oh, God. He, Lord basically, talked her into moving away. And, I don't want nobody judging her for not leaving, because a lot of times there's a reason, people, I'll just say people feel stuck, like they have no other option. And I just want people out there to know that are going through something like this, is with somebody, that there are ways out. And I know it can be hard to get away, but there are ways out. If you need help, please reach out to someone. Okay.
Just help me bring my baby home. And he said, you got yourself a lawyer. And he fought. He fought like hell for Faith.
Oh.
We went to, everything happened in Gallatin Courthouse. My parents were there. We went to the first trial, and I remember walking in the courthouse and my stomach was turning. I hadn't seen my baby.
Bless her heart.
And they had my baby there. Just in arm's reach, and I couldn't even hold her, and I couldn't even kiss her, and I couldn't even tell her I love her.
Stuff like this happens more than what people know.
So we went to trial. I don't know. what you want to call it, a trial, a hearing. I think I was just so oblivious to everything at that point because I was so heartbroken that my baby was gone. And I go into the courtroom and all I had was my dad in there. And their side, all the benches filled up with his family being loud and laughing. And it was just my daddy and me and Mr. Edward. And I remember the judge, his attorney, just everybody in there. All the hurtful things that they put on black and white about me. Just the eyes glaring at me and making it seem like I was a bad person. And I sat there. And he asked me a couple of questions, and I answered. One of them was, "Why did you move out here, Miss Proudfoot?" I said, "Your Honor, to try to make my marriage work." I said, "In which it didn't." I said, "I made a mistake by coming out here. I made a mistake by trusting somebody. And I said, if I could change back the hands of time, I probably would never even came out here." And they did whatever they were doing, and then the judge, said that I only had visitations with Faith, and they all had to be supervised. So then the supervised visitations started happening,
So messed up.
and we would visit Faith. And I remember one visitation that had happened at a park. I can't recall the park's name, but there was a duck pond and really nice playground for the kids. And I remember Kathy showing up with Faith. And we all sat there, got Faith out of the car seat. I was loving on her and kissing her,
Oh,
telling her how much I love her, how much we missed her. And I handed her to her big sister. And I took a picture of those two.
oh,
And my oldest daughter was crying. We only had about, I believe it was between 20 and 30 minutes of visitation with Faith once a week, if I'm right. There's a lot of things that after so many years, it's hard. Like, I would just remember, like, the big things that happened, and that was one of them. It was between 20 and 30 minutes. And my son was there. And then Kathy got her ready to leave.
wow.
they had to leave first, and then we left after. I remember holding my son and my daughter's hand, and we're walking back to my vehicle. And my son started crying.
Oh, bless his heart.
And I started crying, and then my daughter started crying. And he said, Mama, I'm going to run super fast, Mama.
Oh,
I'm going to go grab Faith, and you meet me on the other side of the park, Mama. I'm going to run so fast, and then you drive off, Mama. The pain that Christopher and his family has brought to my family is pain that we'll never forget. Pain that we live with every single day of our lives. And I remember that very clear. And we went home.
yes, Amy.
We had another trial a couple weeks later. Was I believe I want to say it was in maybe November, either in October or November. I can't recall the date. But at that trial, I was praying to God and to my God that we were going to bring Faith home.
Amen.
And we went to that courthouse, and with my mom and dad and Isabella and Noah. At this point in time, my mom was going to testify against Christopher. My daughter was going to testify against Christopher. And they had said, his lawyer at the time had said, don't let her daughter testify. And
Me too, Leah.
so we went without it, nobody testifying that day. Christopher had ended up getting, he was talking at the time. Judge was asking him all kinds of questions. And he made me look like a monster. He made me look like I was the problem.
You're not a problem. You're not. You wasn't the problem.
He made me feel awful about myself and saying all these things in front of these people that weren't even true. It wasn't even true. And then it came to my attorney
Amy.
talking. And at that point in time, I was just like, gosh, oh God, please let a miracle. Just let this just be over with. When people tell lies and when they say hurtful things about you, you just feel so disgusting about yourself. And that's the way I felt. And I remember we needed to break and come back. And Mr. Edwards at that point in time went into the chambers with the judge. And I don't know what was being said, being done back there, but he was in there for a while.
Oh.
And he ended up coming back out. Court was back in session. Everything was, we were going back and forth again. And at some point in time, the judge just had enough. the judge was done hearing everything that had happened. And Christopher, was speaking, and the judge just said, "That's enough. Like, I don't want to even hear what you have to say anymore." He's like, "You premeditated this. This was premeditated. You knew exactly what you and your family were doing.
Yep.
You brought this woman out here with her children, and you guys knew exactly what you were doing."
They did.
And he said, 8:30, Gallatin's Sheriff's Department, that's where the exchange is going to happen. My heart.
Oh.
My heart just dropped, like, and my attorney looks at me and he said, "You just won.
Good job for fighting,
You
Nina.
won." And I
Keep
wanted to
fighting.
scream. I wanted to hit my knees, and all I could think about is, I couldn't wait to wrap my arms around my baby again. And the judge, everybody was hysterical on his side, of course, and my daughter and my mom were waiting out there, and I remember his uncle going out there, and he swung open the door, and he was so angry, and my daughter overheard him say, "She won. She won." And I remember my dad was still sitting behind me, and he had tears in his eyes, and he's like, "Let's go." And my attorney followed me outside, and we went out, and there was just so much chaos coming from the Proudfoots, and we went outside very humbly, and he took us in back of the courthouse the other way, and right there and then I hit my knees. I finally could be relieved, like a big, oh my God, we
So
did.
amazing.
And he said, 8:30, go pick her up. I said, "Thank you, Mr. Edwards." I said, I owe you my life to get you helped me get my baby back. So then we went back to our truck, and we went back to the apartment. We packed what we could, and we pretty much left everything else behind
Hey, Mr. J.
in the storage unit. At that time, I didn't need anything. Because I had everything I've ever wanted. So I remember my dad saying, "Come on, we gotta go." So we went to the sheriff's department.
What?
I figured out something.
What?
And we showed up, and I remember I told my dad, I said, "Wait here." I said, "Stay at..."
I apologize, y'all. 1 second. Yeah.
You know how those people got toilets that have bidets?
Yeah.
Well, I figured out why they like them so much. You know why? You know how our shower head, it's got the hose that comes down, it's got 3 jets down there too?
Yeah.
Well, I was washing my butt, and I turned around, and I let one of them jets hit me in the butthole. Son, I couldn't get out of the damn way.
Get out of here.
I couldn't. I had to make myself get out of the shower.
At that Wendy's. So my dad stayed at that Wendy's waiting for me, and he said, "Okay," he's like, "You call me when you're on your way so I can follow you out, okay?" And I said, "Okay, Dad." We got to the sheriff's department. Christopher and his Michael, Linda, Kathy, Big D, Melissa. His whole entire family was there. So then the exchange was happening. And they live streamed me on Facebook. They said, I can't believe the judge awarded her custody.
Wow.
You know, and I was just standing there, I remember. And I said, can I have my baby back, please? And I remember his mother had her phone in her hand. Or his mother, yes. And she had a brown paper sack full of diapers. And a dirty bottle. And she threw it at me. And she said, I think you're going to need this. Laughing.
What a...
Then I said, thank you. And my 2 younger children were sitting in the back. And then I said, okay, can I have Faith back now? So
It's very brave.
I forget if it was Kathy or Chris, but they tossed her at me. And I caught her. And I said, thank you. So then I get her in her car seat, trying to buckle her up and telling my kids, I said, you need to buckle up. I said, okay, we're going to leave. I remember at the time, my front door had opened at that time, and Christopher got inside of my driver's seat of my truck.
Wow.
And everybody was still filming, live
Mr. Big
streaming on
Man.
Facebook.
Mr. Big Man.
And Melissa Proudfoot had said, why don't you put it in reverse and drive over her?
That's his sister, Melissa Proudfoot.
And I told my kids, I said, get out. I'm trying to get Faith out again. And I told my kids, and I remember he put the truck in reverse. And I told my kids, I said, get out. I said, jump, get out. And I remember them getting out as fast as they could. And we're running into the sheriff's department, and I had Faith, and I'm running, and I'm yelling, and I'm asking for help. I said, somebody please help me. Nobody came out. And then finally, he came in, Christopher, behind me.
No.
And they finally opened the door. And they put me in a back room with my kids.
Yes,
They
Leah.
turned the lights off on us. In the process of me calling my attorney to tell him what was going on, Kathy disconnected my cell phone. And I remember Mr. Edwards calling the police department and telling them they need to let me go.
Mr. Adworth.
And at the time, Christopher was still in the military. And Mr. Edwards, I remember them telling him, you know, she needs to go, because this could possibly cause Mr. Proudfoot his career.
Mr. J, this is T-Rev's video. This is Sebastian Rogers, the 15 missed teen. I can't even talk. 15 missed teen. The 15-year-old autistic boy missing out of Hendersonville, Tennessee. Sebastian Rogers. This is his stepdad's ex-wife speaking on what she went through with him whenever she was with him and tried to get away from him. Things that he has put her through with their child. It's a lot.
So at that point in time, I got escorted outside by a couple of sheriffs that were there. But I mean, they seemed like they knew each other, all of them, the Proudfoots. And I remember Christopher had asked one of the sheriffs if he could say goodbye to Faith, and I said, absolutely not. So I remember getting in my truck.
Yes, all alleged.
After I got the kids in. And I called my dad and I told him what happened. He was so mad. He goes, he was lucky I wasn't there. I'd have knocked the shit out of him. So I said, all right, Dad, I'm coming. Well, everybody followed me down the interstate. My dad and I were weaving in and out of traffic, trying to lose them. The whole family were following me and Dad about 80, 90 miles an hour. We were going down the interstate just to get away from them.
Mm-mm.
We drove all night. We finally got to Little Rock, Arkansas. And Dad had asked me, are you tired? So I could see if I could try to sleep. We couldn't sleep. So then we drove all the way home. We were all scared. We didn't know what was gonna happen. We drove. The relief that I had just to see, I've never felt so relieved to see that New Mexico. Welcome to New Mexico sign.
It is, Amy.
I was finally home. Finally, we
Yes,
made it.
JB.
Chris kept calling and calling, and I avoided him like a plague. Because the judge in Tennessee awarded me custody. He had no jurisdiction over Faith or myself or my other two children. And at the time of all this, they brought CPS involved in that case over there. So we get home here, not even a couple days goes by. He ended up calling CPS on us here.
Dangerous.
And using CPS against me every chance that he got. Showing up to my kids' school. Scaring my kids.
He's a
just like he did in Tennessee. So I filed for divorce here, which I should have filed on tribal land at the time, because I wouldn't be going through this.
That's true. You wouldn't.
So
Should be
the divorce happened. But it dragged on and on and on because Christopher made a big deal about absolutely everything.
Of course he did.
I had to ask for permission to leave Bernalillo County. I had to tell him what I was doing, and if I left New Mexico, he had to know. I am part Native American, so our reservation is probably about 4 to 5 hours from Albuquerque, and at the time, my grandmother was still alive, so we would go out there to see her, and he really never wanted me to take Faith out there. And on top of that, he really never wanted Faith to be Native American. Christopher knew that I was Mexican American and also Native American, but he hated the fact that, and he still hates the fact that Faith is part Native American.
But he didn't hate it enough to
So
put it.
just everything, he would take me back to court for just everything. It wasn't a good divorce. And the parenting plans, it had to be his way or nobody's way. He had to have the last word, and this is what he wanted, and his attorney made sure that's exactly what he got. A lot of times, even because I wanted it to be over, I didn't want to have to or have somebody dictate what I can and can't do. I mean, I've been a mother for an X amount of years at this time, and it wasn't like, I'm new to all this. But everything had always had to have been Christopher's way. And even though I gave him what he wanted, it was something different. Oh, Faith can't wear leggings, or, just the stupidest things, or, it was dumb. I can't even recall how many hearings I went to with Christopher. It's been horrible. So at this point in time, I didn't really agree to the parenting plan. I didn't like it, but I signed it anyways, just because I wanted it to be over with. The divorce was finally final. And he was still stationed, I believe, in San Diego at this point in time. He was, if I'm correct, he was already living with Katie when we were still married. We were going through the divorce, but he had moved in with her. And I was pretty surprised how fast he moved on with his life. Like we never mattered. Like Faith was, like, he never had a family. But I should have known that as well prior to the marriages before me, like how he just moved on so quickly with his life. So he would take Faith out there when she was little, like for 2 weeks or a week. And, Katie and them would be living the family life. I, at the time, did not know Sebastian or Katie. I would just see Katie through FaceTime, where she would be doing something in the background. And I would ask Christopher, like, I would tell him, I can't believe you've moved on with your life so quick. Like who does that?
202.
Well, back and forth we would be going, with Faith. And I finally moved on with my life.
20170.
But
20170.
Christopher had made a statement the other night on one of the interviews, the podcasts that he was doing. And I didn't like the way he said this. How he he called Nina moved in with a man. Like, he knows this person's name. And he deserves to be called his name, not the man. And remind you, I've known Wayne for over 3.5 years. He was my client before we even got exclusive, like being in a relationship, before we even moved in together. He knew I had children. I mean, just so for him to sit there and say that, he basically made it sound like he didn't know this person. He does. So here we are. Faith is 6. I'm still living in this nightmare that he's created. We live in fear every single day. We're constantly watching over our backs. My kids don't even know what a normal childhood should feel like, because they were exposed to all this at a very young age. The awful things that other people could do. My oldest daughter said it best. She said, "Mom,
sad.
I feel like I was robbed of my childhood because of Chris." Because of everything that he's done. I've had to grow up so quick to protect my siblings.
Petitioner responded.
And protecting us and always living in fear. Being called to the office and wondering if Child Protective Services was there. She's 15 now and still hates to go to the office because of everything that he's done and his family has done. I feel helpless because I feel like I can't protect them enough. And I wish there was more that I can do. We're still living in this nightmare. We're still going to court.
Written report.
He still complains about everything when it's not his way. In the beginning, there was CPS called. He used Child Protective Service on me because of the divorce, to get my children taken away from me. He has a friend that works at Albuquerque Police Department as well. I don't know if he still keeps in contact with him. I believe so.
Oh, thank you, Amy. I appreciate that.
He was told to do a welfare check on us one night.
Can I just say that on March the 24th, somebody, party type RS, which I believe means the respondent, as the other party type is PT, so I would think that would be respondent, which is Chris, requested to have the case sealed, like the petition, to have it sealed, because, I mean, was he afraid people were what they were gonna see? Because when I'm looking, that's 1 million court cases. like not literally a million, but that's a lot of court going on here.
But he didn't take the call, probably because he knew both of us.
Danny, you was right.
I mean, I don't know, and I don't know how that would have been used against him either, I guess. Maybe he was worried about that. Just,
It is
he's
true.
been filing for full custody, Christopher, for about a year to 2 years now, if I recall. A lot of this stuff is just, it doesn't make sense to me.
Bingo, Danny.
He's made us.
Can I just
He tells people that I'm
even if he's not the one that had something to do with Sebastian's disappearance, in my opinion, he's still a not so nice person. And I believe his family would, in my opinion, it's like a big cover up. Cover up, cover up, cover up. So, bunch of crazies, in my opinion, bunch of damn crazies. Bunch of a-holes.
Stable. That I need a psychiatric evaluation. That I'm, that I'm pretty much crazy. It's been a nightmare. And the recent one, why he's pushing for full custody, is because I moved Faith out of Bosque Farms Elementary to a Native American academy in Albuquerque, where my youngest son goes and my oldest daughter goes down the street to a high school, and it's a minute away. So,
and
I was trying to make the commute easier.
Why is he trying to fight for custody of his daughter as well whenever they're trying to fight for custody for her, but he doesn't even want her around Sebastian, allegedly, right? So, Mr. Proudfoot, think you got some talking to do, sir.
There for all of us. All my kids are in curricular activities. My son's in football. My Faith cheers for her brother's Yaffle football team.
Same.
So practice. My 2 older girls are in Mexican folk dancing. Faith and her older sister are in Mexican folk dancing. My children are in 4-H. So my kids are super busy, and I work in the city as well. So trying to make my life easier, I decided to put her there. And he did not like him and his attorney. So they're pushing for full custody about that. I mean, I can't even recall how many other nonsense issues have been brought up. My children, myself, I'm over it. I'm tired.
I'm sorry,
This has
Nina.
worn my whole entire family down, my children, myself. This is like the first thing I think of when I wake up, and the last thing I think about when I go to sleep. There's no words to explain this feeling. And on top of that, we were supposed to go to trial March 5th, I believe it was. March 5th. And the first one, March 5th. I went to court January 2nd. of 2024.
For 9.
Continuing cases, I had to pay for his attorney fees because I pulled Faith out of Bosque Farms. Although I contacted him through email, he never replied to me. I contacted my lawyer at the time, he never replied to me. So what was I supposed to do? I mean, I had to do what was in best interest for Faith and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up paying the legal fee for Christopher because his lawyer complained about that.
Of course.
So then we went to trial. We got a date for trial. Boy, I was furious when I left my lawyer's office. I feel like I hire all these lawyers that just that never took the bat for Faith and listened to anything that I have ever said. I've always told people in the past, the people that were working for Faith and myself, the kind of person that Christopher really was. Nobody listened. I mean, he's hurt my child.
Would y'all like to finish the rest of this tomorrow? Because we still have a whole 45 minutes to go. Or more. Almost a whole other hour to go on it. So is that okay with you if we stop here and pick up on the rest of it tomorrow? Or do y'all want to?
Well, you do what you got to do. You got work
Yeah.
tomorrow?
Yeah, I got work in the morning.
Yeah.
But, man, what a heartbreaking story. Like, okay. Yeah, what we'll do is, let me stop sharing this. I appreciate him letting people share his video to help get Nina's story out there. And it's at Trev Time 2023. Oh, I need to pay attention to what time it was. Let me write this down. 124.25. Yeah, we still had almost a whole hour so to go. So what we'll do is we'll pick back up on it tomorrow. And up here, oh, y'all can't see what I'm on. Up here, can you see what I'm talking about up here?
Hey, are you finished?
It's shared up here on the screen at Trev Time 2023, y'all. If y'all ain't subscribed to him, check him out. He's a sweetheart, you know. I believe he does really good in his work that he puts in on here. So yeah. And the reason why I'm not stopping every few seconds to talk, and hopefully I don't get in trouble for that, but it's because it's better to let the story, like, so you could pay attention, don't have to constantly stop. I mean, I stop and I'll say things as much as I can, but I prefer to just, take all in and not keep pausing and just keep taking in what she's saying and paying attention to that and not having to pause and talk as much. But I don't know. But anyway, Nina, just know you're not alone. And there are people out here that care. And you're loved. Don't you ever let nobody put you through that. You fight, baby. You keep fighting for that baby. You got this. I seen the all this court stuff. I see it. Mr. Proudfoot. Your foot ain't gonna be so proud by the time this is said and over. In my opinion. And she gonna get full custody of that baby. don't care what anybody has to say. I'll be her lawyer. Okay. Bless her heart. Man, she made me tear up a few times. I can't. That shit breaks my heart, man. And I think when you can also relate to, something, you're, whew, Lord Jesus. She broke my heart. Okay. You're welcome. I appreciate y'all being here. Hey, you want to talk or anything?
Nope.
Hey, you don't want to talk. Why?
I just got nothing to say right
Well,
now.
hot damn. Not even,
Write it
not
down.
even like, hey, y'all. Yeah, hi.
Hey, Mom. Look,
I'm good with it. Okay, y'all. Tomorrow we will finish listening to what Nina has to say. I'm going to put his work clothes in the dryer. I have to put my thinking cap on now. Put his work clothes in the dryer, and then I can go to bed, I think. Well, I think I need some chocolate milk. I feel like I'm going to have heartburn like a son of a gun. And I got to put out all the leftover from supper. Y'all, I
oh,
made ham, taters, mac and cheese, fried okra, and corn on the cob. And deviled eggs.
I should have come to your house.
Yes, ma'am. You want me to, like,
That's all I can say.
freeze you some and then send it while it's still cold?
Nah,
Because it might
nah,
not
I'm good.
unthaw since it'll be frozen. I'll put some ice packs in there with it. Get it
No, that's okay.
done.
It sounds good, but I don't think I'd want to eat anything out of the mail.
Oh, I thought I had a
I'm not
drawing.
saying you're cooking. I'm just saying the fact that it traveled in the mail.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want
You want some
to.
deviled
You
eggs?
want deviled
Oh, Danny, they're good. I need to eat me a few more. That way I'm farting on him all night. I like it. But he's like,
Oh,
God, what is that
Sandy.
smell? If you're gonna be farting like that, go sleep in the living room.
Oh,
But
my
I'm
Lord.
feeling
That's
hungry
funny.
again.
Oh,
Well, I kind of want some deviled eggs, and then maybe I'll have some chocolate milk. Listen.
it's kind of a combination that just doesn't ring
Well,
too
that's
good.
why you wait just a little bit. Let the eggs go down a little bit, and then you take a bite of something else and kind of get that egg taste out, and then you make the chocolate milk.
Then you make the okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. I'm just trying to picture an egg in one hand and chocolate milk in the
Oh,
other, and going, yep.
no, but some people drink chocolate milk with their breakfast, and it's eggs.
Nope, coffee maybe, but not chocolate milk with breakfast. Nope, never have done it.
Well,
Can't imagine it.
you don't know what you're missing out on. I don't eat breakfast or
I'm
nothing,
sure
but
I am. So
I know little ones, they like chocolate milk with their breakfast. And I like it before I go to bed. And I got me
oh
a
my
bottle of
goodness.
chocolate, and by golly, I'm getting me some chocolate milk.
She got a bottle of chocolate and a whole bottle of cold milk sitting in that refrigerator calling her name.
Yes.
And I meant to say refrigerator, not frigidator. I don't know
Frigidator.
where that came from,
I
but
will start saying
frigidator.
that
I
Frigidator.
see.
You got
Yeah,
that
it's in that old
Frigidator
frigidator.
running.
Good night. Oh, I don't know where that came from, but anyway, you enjoy.
Okay, well, I love y'all.
Oh, Mr. J is hungry now. Look what you did. Now
Mr.
you
J,
made Mr. J
get you
hungry.
some food in your belly. You got something to eat, Mr. J?
Danny's looking for deviled eggs now.
Now she could put the milk in the chocolate syrup to get the last bit for Bubba.
Oh, I've done that.
I
Put it in,
told
shake it real
you.
hard. And pour it in.
I'm not a milk drinker, but for the occasional chocolate milk, nice and cold. It can't be all warmified, and it can't be no off-brand chocolate. It's got to be Hershey's chocolate syrup. It's good, and it's the only kind that works. So don't ever try to buy the off-brand. If you can't afford the Hershey's, just save up another $1 or $2, and then you go get the Hershey's. Do not fall for the off-brand. That's disgusting. That don't taste nothing like it.
And Arrow, when she puts it in, shakes it up, and pours it in her mouth, she doesn't even put
I
it in the
do.
glass.
I drank it straight out.
I see you do it. Yeah. When she gets to that last little bit, she goes, "Oh no, not enough for a glass." So just put the milk in, shake it, shake it, shake it. And I'll stand here and drink it.
Uh-huh.
Now, Mr. J needs chocolate milk. You're sending people to boil eggs to go buy milk and chocolate Hershey. Look what you're doing. And probably nothing's open now.
Listen,
Well, I don't know.
was
It's
Carl
9:16 my
supposed to
time.
be
but
going live? I can't remember.
I don't think she said anything. I don't
I was gonna say,
recall.
it's after
Anybody
10,
else?
and I'm okay. I'm gonna have to look it up. Shit, far.
Oh, my grandpa did that, Danny. He would put the
No.
peanuts on top
Okay.
of the ice cream with a little bit of Hershey syrup. And that was, we called it Papa or Grandpa's Sunday.
Oh, that sounds
The
warm.
Spanish peanut. Yeah, the Spanish peanuts. You had a cream bagel? Oh, that sounds so
Okay,
good.
well, I love y'all. I'm getting off here. I gotta go. I
Okay.
love y'all.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for having
Well,
me come
thank you.
up.
I'll see y'all tomorrow. Oh, cream cheese bagel. Oh, I need that in my life. Mm. Oh, I love bagels. Okay, shit.
I do
Stop
too,
it.
but can't have them.
Okay, good night.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. Love y'all. Good night, y'all. Staples.